We talked then about the foundational yoga pose cues, so the language, the words you use, that you absolutely must have in your practices, in your yoga classes, to keep you and your students safe and have an effective class. So there are 6 things that are foundational to every class that you should definitely be mentioning all the time in many of the poses. And then on the back page, I do have the additional pose ones, but we're not worried about that right now. We're not thinking about that right now. As new teachers, or for those of you who are going back to the basics, I really want you to focus on these 6 basic principles of foundational cueing. So these need to be in your class. The first one is alignment. That's like the main one pretty much for setting people up in your poses or your breath. How do you align the breath? How do you align your body? How do you align your thoughts? How do you align anything? So talking about this though, with the alignment from the physical perspective, the easy way to align people up and talk about the cues is talk about each of their body parts from the ground, from the foundation, and work your way up the body. If you're in a standing pose, talk about the feet first, and then the knees and the quads, and then the hips and the belly, the chest, shoulders, elbows, hands, head, neck, and gaze. So it's easy to move up your body rather than saying, place your hands by your side, feet down, your head tall, abs in, elbows soft. I don't know. So if you're like, we don't do that in a yoga class where we go up and down and up and down and up and down. So let's not do that with our cues. So alignment cues. Use those action words, those active, empowering action words. So press, align, draw, soften, reach, lift, but use them from the ground up. That's our alignment stuff. We'll go through a lot of alignment when we do the poses, so you'll see that in your pose pages. I'm not going to go through the poses in video like this, but for you to go through and pick out some cues and alignments and read through the poses and to practice them yourself would be awesome. So really focus on alignment for yourself. When you demo, this is a little side note, when you demo, you need to be 100% on with your pose, your alignment, your engagement, and all of that, because your students are going to follow you for follow your energy level and your pose ability about 50% or so, or less than what you're doing. So if you're sloppy with it, they're going to be even worse. So let's make sure that our poses that we're showing them and the activation and engagement is 100% on and effective and safe. The second foundational pose cue is your gaze. That goes with alignment too, oftentimes, where you can say, gazing forward, it keeps your neck in neutral alignment. Or we're gazing over the right shoulder for a deeper twist. Or your gaze is at your right fingertips, or gaze is 6 feet in front of your toes, or gaze is at the top of the mat. That keeps our body in that neutral alignment. And what we're going for is neutral. So in this practice, in this training, our neck is always going to be in that neutral alignment, so we're not cranking up, we're not tucking the chin. There are a few poses where there are a couple exceptions, but for the most part, our gaze is going to help us stay in the upright, neutral alignment. So let them know where to look. It also helps to maintain their focus. So if you're constantly looking around, looking at other people, you start to get and feel scattered. So keeps your body in neutral alignment and keeps your mind in focus. Distal points. Distal points are like the hands. Distal means the farthest point from your origin of movement, which is in this belly core area. So your distal points would be the hands, the toes, it could be the tailbone and downward facing dog, the crown of the head, it might be an elbow or a knee, or it might be your heels. So not just your toes if you're pointing that, but it's oftentimes your heels. So where are the points where you're sending out energy in your poses? So talk about those energy lines, which is very similar to the distal points. Energy lines, where are they going? So lifting through the crown of the head, pressing down through the heels, tailbone pressing back, arms reaching, fingertips reaching. Maybe talk about which direction the palm is going. Inward rotation of the arms, inward rotation of the pinkies. So where are you reaching in your body? Fourth one of the 6 is modification and intensification. talk about ways to customize your practice. I don't necessarily like the word modify. It has kind of a negative connotation for those of you who don't want to modify or be less than anyone else. And so using the word modify can just know that it can bring up a few things for people, and they may decide like, I'm not going to modify today, or I don't need to modify. So the language you use when you talk about modifying is very, very important, and we'll get more in depth on that later. So instead of using words like, if you can't do this, then we're going to modify by doing this. That is something I don't want you to say. Instead, flipping that around to more of a positive. If today you're still building strength, if you're still building strength, today just try for today, try this on your knees. Or if you had a long weekend, maybe today you want to customize this practice by keeping your foot down. So framing that ability to modify in a different way, in a more positive way. And then this goes with the breath. If your breath is starting to get choppy, you're feeling yourself holding your breath, this would be a good point to back off just a little bit so you can reconnect with your breath. Bring it back to the breath. Same with intensification. Offer the intensification after as you're building up. So the intensification is not your starting point, but offers a place for people to go to add more strength, to add more focus, to add more to their pose, offering modification and intensification. And one last thing I will say on that is, often as a yoga teacher teaching a vinyasa class, you really have to sell people on those modifications. You'll see people in class who you're like, you really, today should be modifying, and they won't do it unless you do it. So model that for them, and put your knees down yourself. Inhale and exhale. That's the breath-based cueing. So you want to tell people occasionally and in certain poses when to exhale, when to inhale, reminding constantly of the breath. Remember, it helps us with our practice. It helps us to be a guide, and then cue the breath with some actions attached. So as you're inhaling, remember, you're lengthening, you're lifting, you're reaching. Exhale to soften, exhale to press, exhale to engage, and what body parts go along with that. And the last one, and I say this a lot, it's now become a phrase I use often in class, hopefully not too much, but it's the contraindication. What tends to go wrong and then how to fix it. So this is the quick formula, the quick script for that. There's a tendency to insert bad alignment. So today, let's insert good alignment, and you should feel, like in your body, you should feel the change, the shift. For example, Warrior 2. Oh, you can't really see me in Warrior 2. Warrior 2, Warrior 2, there's a tendency to collapse the knee inward. So today, let's press through the pinky toe, and you should feel an openness throughout that right hip. Or let's see, arms up. There's a tendency to shrug your shoulders. So today, let's draw the shoulders down and back, and you should feel a softening throughout your shoulders. You should feel the tension melt away. So when you see someone in a poor alignment, instead of automatically going up to them and adjusting and touching them, tell the whole class, there's a tendency to do this certain thing. So today, let's try this other way. Just for today. Tomorrow you can go back to whatever it is you did. But right now let's try this, and you should feel softer, better, more aligned, maybe a little more uncomfortable. You should feel stronger. So use that a lot, the contraindication. As a quick recap, alignment, your gaze, or drishti, it's called in Sanskrit, your distal points or energy lines, the modifications, intensifications, cueing the inhale and the exhale with some action words, and contraindications or tendencies and how to fix them. So I hope that was helpful for foundational pose cues. Really, I was just going through this weekend and sharing with you the basics. We'll get to more cueing exercises and teaching practice in weeks to come, but just get to know these and get to know and start to think about what you might say in certain poses. There's no homework with this one, there will be in the future, but just to read through foundational pose cues and You can also look at the additional pose cues. We'll go through those, throughout the training. We've got so much more to cover. So I'm so glad you're here along with us on this journey, and I'll see you for the next lesson or the next thing that we're going through.